to the poor. Bind up the broken hearted. Tell of the freedom that releases the captives. Push aside the mourner's darkness. The day of freedom is here, and beauty is rising from the ashes. For the year of the Lord's favors upon us. Rebuild the ancient ruins. Restore the places long devastated. Renew the broken cities. Delight in the Lord. Rejoice in our God. He is the giver of our salvation. Salvation. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The day of freedom is here, and beauty is rising from the ashes. For the year of the Lord's favors upon us. Proclaim the good news to the poor. Bind up the broken hearted. Tell of the freedom that releases the captive. Push aside the mourner's darkness. The day of freedom is here, and beauty is rising from the ashes. For the year of the Lord's favors upon us. The day of freedom is here, and beauty is rising from the ashes. For the year of the Lord's favors upon us. Favors upon us. The day of freedom is here, and beauty is rising from the ashes. For the year of the Lord's favors upon us.
Welcome to the Prolife Team podcast. I'm Jacob, and I'm here with Scott. And so, Scott, would you tell us a little bit about your backstory, introduce yourself, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Yeah, Scott Phelps. I am executive director of the Abstinence and Marriage Education Partnership. And Been doing this for quite a while. We teach abstinence until marriage in schools around the country and lift up that message, really. And we are strong proponents of encouraging young people to reserve all sexual activity and childbearing for the context of marriage. Yeah, so there are three metrics that drive our work. Number one, the non-marital birth rate at 40% is problematic. These are what I call three mega trends that can't continue for society to flourish. Number one, the non-marital birth rate, 40%. That is to say that 40% of American children born outside the context of marriage is problematic, and that continues to climb. It's actually held steady at 40% for about a decade now, but that is it's really unacceptably high, 40%. Might get to 50%, but so far we're holding, but we're not satisfied with that. That's number one. Number two is the declining marriage rates. Marriage rates are at an all-time low. And this is highly problematic that most Americans, for the first time in American history, the majority of Americans are unmarried as opposed to married. And then the third metric, and this is maybe the key, that what you're kind of getting at is the declining fertility rates in the United States. So we're very concerned about the fertility rates, that we are a civilization in decline, along with most of the developed world, right? So Europe, as well as Asia, are also suffering dramatic fertility decline. And the widespread promotion of contraception and abortion are largely to blame, as well as decreased sexual activity. And so declining fertility rates are problematic. And so when I started this work back in the late 1990s, I've been doing this since 1999. So what is that, coming up on 27, 28 years now?
Yeah.
I started teaching abstinence education in the public schools as a way to reduce teen pregnancy and thus abortions, right? 88% of abortions occur outside the context of a marriage relationship. So if you want to reduce abortions, the best way to reduce abortions is to go to the head of the stream and help young people prepare well for healthy future marriage and family. That if we can encourage young people to marry before having children, that they will be much less likely to abort, and those children would have a much better chance to have a healthy and successful future. So now that's when I started in 1999. Now, fast forward to today, teen pregnancies, births, and abortions are at all-time recorded lows. Since 1990, all three of those metrics have been in a constant, dramatic decline. And so teen pregnancy is no longer the great problem that it once was. It's still problematic, don't get me wrong, but it's not the issue. The greater issue now is we've gone so far the other way with the wholesale promotion of contraception through our schools that fertility rates have plummeted. And so teen pregnancies are now at all-time lows. Yay, that's good. But pregnancy overall is also on decline. So we've done a really good job, in other words, quote unquote, a really good job of promoting contraception and abortion to our young people. And especially contraception, that schools, the default message in a sex education class is, here's all the different types of contraception that you should use, right? And it's really pharmaceutical companies really promoting themselves through the American educational system. So all that to say that our program seeks to flip the script on that. We are not a pregnancy prevention program. We're a pregnancy promotion program. We don't believe that the message for young people today ought to be, sex is bad, don't have sex, because if you have sex, bad things can happen to you, like pregnancy. And so you have to, quote unquote, protect yourself from pregnancy by using contraception. What? You're going to protect yourself from pregnancy? What does that even mean? So in other words, we've communicated, and what we've tended to do through sex education and even unwittingly through abstinence education programs is we have correlated pregnancy and disease, and that's highly problematic. So what you want to do is, in a sex education program, the message is you need to use quote unquote protection, meaning contraception, to quote unquote protect yourself from things like pregnancy and disease. So those things have been conflated as problematic.
Wow.
In an abstinence education program, it's not that much different, actually. It's like, don't have sex, because the problem is if you have sex, bad things can happen, like pregnancy and disease. You see it?
Yeah.
So the message is still sort of convoluted, even in an abstinence education program, if it's not taught properly. So what we want to do is we want to de-link pregnancy and disease bad, pregnancy good. So what we want to make sure that the message that young people hear is not that pregnancy is a problem to be avoided, but rather a hope to be cherished. So we are pro-pregnancy. We want to be the leading pregnancy promotion organization in the country. We are pro-natal, pro-fertility, pro-baby, pro-life, pro-family, pro-marriage. All of that is pro. We are pro-pro. And so we want young people to learn that pregnancy is good, that babies are good, and that these things are best reserved for the context of a marriage relationship. Because in the context of a marriage relationship, that child has the benefit of being raised and cared for a married mother and father. So the message to young people for abstinence until marriage education is not don't have sex because bad things can happen to you. Rather, it's reserve all sexual activity and childbearing for the context of marriage, because that's best for you. You see it? So it's not a negative, don't stop, bad, quit, disease message. It's a positive, you can do this, yes, you can. So we teach the success sequence along with our abstinence until marriage program. And so what we say is the success sequence program, which is the name of the curriculum, the success sequence program teaches you the optimal pathway for future success, with a clear emphasis on reserving all sexual activity and childbearing for marriage. And that's a very positive, proactive message. We think that pregnancy care centers should be focused on being proactive rather than reactive, rather than waiting for the problem to come to your center for encouragement. And yay, it's good that we're doing that, but we need to do more than that. We can't just respond to the problem. We need to be proactive and going out into our community, out into our schools, out into our churches, out into our communities, and helping young people see and understand the value of waiting until marriage and why pregnancy is good and worthy. It's a good and worthy goal. You should aspire toward pregnancy. You should aspire toward children. That children and marriage and family are wonderful. I just got home from New York City, where my wife and I were out there for a week watching our little grandchildren, 3.5 and 1 year old, while their parents were off on vacation. And what a joy. What a joy. These two little ones are raised by their married mom and dad, and their married mom and dad each have a married mom and dad. That network of support is a tremendous benefit to these children. Sadly, many children in America today don't have that. You want to talk about privilege? Absolutely, yes. These kids are privileged. They're privileged to have married parents who have married parents. That's the culture for which we advocate. That's the message that we communicate to our young people. That's what we're all about.
Oh, that's so good. So I I interviewed Roland with CareNet a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about when there's an unexpected pregnancy, if you could change everything in that scenario in order to essentially to flip the narrative from someone seeking abortion to someone cherishing that experience. He was talking about having the solid foundation with marriage, with all of the support, and having a completely different scenario where that pregnancy took place and started in. And it sounds like you're echoing or reflecting a very similar model of let's help people build really strong foundations so that when pregnancies occur, they're happening in good situations more so than in crisis situations. Does that make sense? Or well, how would you reflect on that?
Yes, that's absolutely what I was just arguing for. And I'm going a step further to say we're actually promoting pregnancy. Not just that if there is a pregnancy that it would be good, but that they should
Yeah.
aspire to pregnancy. That pregnancy isn't a problem to be avoided; it's a hope to be cherished. I want to be teaching kids that pregnancy is like when you look forward to things in your future. It's not just having a good career and money and a house and everything. It's having babies. That there's nothing better. There's nothing better in life than having these little ones to care for and to raise up a new generation of a new American generation. It's the
Yeah.
greatest privilege. It's the great, like, I want them to aspire for that someday I'm not just going to get a job. I'm not just going to buy a car. I'm not just going to buy a house, but someday I'm going to get married and have children and have a family. That's what I want to instill in them. That's the aspirational part of our work. And we're very much about the way we call it, we say restoring the dream for America's youth. We want them to dream about the beauty of marriage and family and communicate that. We've got a number of videos on our website that we use for schools to use where we just picture that. We just tell stories and show pictures of why that's such a beautiful thing. So that's what we're all about.
Yeah. So I was watching some a Charlie Kirk video yesterday, and it was an episode, or it was a college interview where he was talking to someone about how abortion is used as a contraceptive because it's and I think it reflects on how you were saying, as if we treat pregnancy as the consequence or as a negative, then abortion becomes the solution. And 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 sure, maybe condoms and other contraceptives get used more than abortion, but abortion is used a tremendous amount of, with these different scenarios out of inconvenience or not wanting that pregnancy, and then pregnancy is treated like a negative consequence that someone's trying to avoid, and then abortion is treated like the solution.
That's
Can you
right.
speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So last check, 88% of abortions occur among unmarried women. So they're much more likely to pursue an abortion if they're not married. That's why, again, it's not teen pregnancy, it's non-marital pregnancy that's the issue.
Yeah.
Most people will be surprised that teens are among the lowest category of non-marital pregnancies and births. That the largest numbers and percentage of non-marital births are among adults, uh, particularly in the mid 20s. And so, what we want to do is encourage young people. The reason we're encouraging marriage, as I said when I started off, was because of abortion, right? I was very concerned about abortion, pro-life. How do we save the babies? Well, you don't just save the babies by reacting after the fact. You best save the babies by, as I said, moving upstream and helping young people understand the benefits of reserving all sexual activity for childbearing, for sexual activity and childbearing in the first place. So that's what we're trying to do. We are uh, very much proactive. We don't want our young people to get in a place where they are needing a pregnant. Look, my job is to put pregnancy care centers out of business, right? I don't want there to be a single pregnancy care center in the country. Roland Warren, I want to put you out of business. So,
Yeah.
and that ought to be the mentality of every pregnancy center director, that we want to shut this thing down, that we have been so effective in communicating the beauty of marriage and family that there is no more desire for abortion, that there is no more abortion. See, so that should be our hope. That should be our mentality. How do we end the pregnancy care center movement? That's
Yeah.
my goal. I want to bring an end to how do you like that? I want to bring an end to the pregnancy care center movement because I want there to be no need for it because we're all proactive and preventing the problem in the first place.
So a couple years ago, I interviewed someone, a pregnancy clinic director, who was helping clients or couples who were looking for abortion, perhaps, or at least in a crisis pregnancy, and they were working with partnering churches to help set up. When they wanted to get married, they were helping coming along, bringing in the church, and essentially helping do really low cost, no cost marriages with the weddings, and for when the couple wanted to go forward in that positive direction. What are your thoughts on churches partnering and working with pregnancy clinics and supporting couples who want to get married, as part of this transition and life-changing experience of not just choosing life, but choosing marriage?
Absolutely. And choosing marriage in the context of faith. Faith in Christ is going to be central to that. So yes. And that's where the pregnancy care centers are doing a great job, is focusing in on, when the clients come in, really making sure that there's a clear gospel presentation in the midst of that. So that's the beauty of it. And partnering up with the church, I would say, is not only desirable, but fundamental. It's a fundamental part of that what we would want to do with the clients that come into our center is to make sure, A, that they're getting a gospel message, and then B, that we're connecting them to a local church. I would say absolutely yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Wow, so what's it like to teach abstinence in a public school? What kind of pushback have you had to work around or through?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's not what most people expect. The reality is, I tell people all the time in my training seminars, the reality is you will not get pushback from the kids. The kids will absolutely eat it up. Where you get pushback from is the people sitting at the desk. It's the administrators. It's the people upstairs with all the letters after their names who are so sophisticated that they know what's best. And they are sure that this message will not resonate with kids. And so therefore you should not tell it to them. And the reality, after 27 years of doing this and being in classrooms and out of classrooms, dealing with educators, administrators, students, parents, you name it, I will tell you that young people are hungry and thirsty for this message, and they absolutely eat it up. They want it. They embrace it. Look, we just had, I'll send you the graph afterward. You can put it on this podcast if you want, but we just had results from a group in the Knoxville, Tennessee area come back that went through our curriculum. It's an exact 90% flip. You've got 90% of the kids walking in the door. And the question on the survey instrument is, there's 11-point surveys. The last one is, I plan to save sexual activity for marriage. On that last question on the 11-point survey, I plan to save sexual activity for marriage. Walking in the door, 90% of the kids say no or I don't know. Okay, can we teach you some things? After the lesson, the 8 weeks of lessons, 8 class periods over 8 weeks, whatever. After they go through the material, the workbook, in this case, it was AC Green's game plan, one of our 4 curriculum. After the lessons, exact flip, 90% of the kids say yes, plan to save sex for marriage. So that to me is just one example of the dramatic response that we get time and again. Because think about it. Kids haven't chosen a particular lifestyle. They've simply been swept along by a Miley Cyrus culture. So it's not that they ever sat down and made a decision about this. They never thought of it. Here's what a girl at a high school in Chicago said years ago when I started doing this. I started doing this in Chicago public schools years ago. A girl said this in a CPS, Chicago Public School. She said this after a presentation. I think saving sex for marriage is a great idea. I never thought of that before. That's what I want to do. Ding, 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 ding. This girl represents a generation of young people. Not a generation of young people who have heard the message of abstinence until marriage and rejected it, but have never had the opportunity to hear it. And this is our biggest problem with sex education. We are not a sex education program. We are an alternative to sex education. Sex education is corrosive to the national soul. It's harmful for our young people. It normalizes teen sexual activity. It promotes contraception, promotes abortion, gets into gender identity, sexual orientation, all the nonsense that they don't need to be hearing about, and forbids and ignores the best, safest, healthiest message possible for our young people, which is reserving all sexual activity and childbearing for marriage is best. That's all. It's the safest, healthiest context. They won't even say that. I was on a TV show years ago called The Doctors, and I was debating a sex ed lady. And she said what they always said, oh, we teach abstinence too. And by the way, every sex ed, I don't believe there's a school in America that will say we don't teach abstinence. It's the fig leaf. It's the word that they will throw out to disarm you. Oh, yes. Do you teach abstinence? Yes, we do. Okay, well, what else do you teach? And in other words, abstinence is a fig leaf that what they mean by that is understand. Yes, we cover all forms of contraception. Abstinence is one of the many forms of contraception that we will talk about. We'll talk about condoms. We'll talk about the pill. We'll talk about the IUD. We'll talk about abortion. We'll talk about abstinence. But what they mean by abstinence is don't have sexual intercourse, but here's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can do that's highly inappropriate and unhelpful for teens. So it's highly problematic. You don't let them get away with saying they teach abstinence. Everyone will say that, okay? So a sex education program is going to focus on everything, but what they won't say, so coming back to the TV show. So she said what they always say, yeah, we teach abstinence. I said, yeah, but I've never seen I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of a single sex education program in America that will even offer waiting until marriage as an option. And you know what she said? She goes, yeah, you're right. We don't teach that. we don't say anything about marriage. Hello. How do you teach anything about sex without talking about marriage?
Yeah.
What do you say? Sex within marriage is factually, observably, provably, demonstrably the safest, healthiest, optimal environment, context for sexual activity to occur. But you're not going to say that ever? Hugely problematic.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
So we exist to flip the script on that. We want to replace sex education in the American school. That public school health education and private school, but most of our work is public schools. That sex education should be rooted out. It is the rot at the core of the educational system. It needs to be rooted out and replaced with success sequence education, which includes a clear message on the benefits of reserving all sexual activity and childbearing for marriage. That's our mission. That's our passion. That's our goal.
Oh, that's good. So, so where have you seen God's fingerprints in this work, in this journey, working with public schools, working with this messaging? Where have you seen God, show up and make things align with what he would like to have happen?
Yeah, good question, because it's clear in the responses of the students. In other words, there is truth with a capital T that resonates within the hearts of these kids. In other words, when you teach this message with clarity, and we're all about that, we're all about clarity. I believe that the power of our message is in its distinctiveness. Okay? So, for example, if I'm speaking at a school, and I don't do a lot of speaking in schools, I spend most of my time training educators who then teach the kids. But once in a while, I do now still speak to students like Pam does, Pam Stenzel. But that's not the main thing that I do, but I love it. And when I talk to students, I will go in and I will say to them something like this. I'm here to talk to you about abstinence until marriage, reserving all sexual activity for the context of marriage. And as soon as I say that, you might be thinking, what? We never hear anything like that. And that's why I'm here, because I'm going to be here all week. And the things I'm going to be talking to you about are things that you're not going to hear anywhere else. You're not going to see it on Instagram. It's not going to be on television. It's not on your computer. It's not on a billboard. It's not on the radio. You're not going to hear the things I'm saying this week anywhere else. So listen up. Okay. When I start my teacher training seminars, I say to the teachers at the beginning of the day, it's a 5-hour, 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock training seminar. And I start off, the first thing I say in the day, this is a voluntary program. You don't have to teach this program. If at the end of the day, this isn't your cup of tea, that's okay. We can still be friends. And the reason I'm saying that is the things I'm going to be saying today are very different than the things you're accustomed to hearing. I'm not here to repeat the things you've already heard. That would be a waste of my time and yours. No, I'm going to be saying things that are very different than what you're accustomed to hearing. And so at the end of the day, you're going to have to choose whether you want to teach it or not. Now, at the end of the day, they're like, when can I start? When can I start? But you see what I'm saying is I make a very clear distinction between what I'm saying and what is out there. I'm not trying to sound like a sex education program. I want to sound nothing like a sex education program. I want to sound very distinct and different than everything else that they're hearing. And that's what resonates with the kids. What I say is everything that we're speaking resonates in their heart. It comports with their nature. It's the way God made them. And so when I speak truth with a capital T, they're just like, oh, wow. Wow. They're like this. They're like, boy, that tastes good. What's that called? And you're like, that's called truth. And they're like, wow, we've never really tasted truth before. That tastes really good. Got any more of that? They eat it up. They eat it up.
Oh, that's good. So you trained educators, and I know Pam has taught across the country. At least that's my understanding. So if someone who's listening would like to connect or explore this educational training opportunity for the educators, what would that look like for someone somewhere in the country?
Yeah, so
Connect
two
with
ways
you.
to do that. So we do live professional development. So like if a pregnancy care center wants us to have us come out, we certainly do that. We do that for pregnancy care centers. We do that for educational a school district will bring us out. So whoever, you can contact us at ampartnership.org. Or we also have online training available as well. So happy
Okay.
to
And what's
provide
the
that. And
AM
that
stand
training is
for in
available at
ampartnership.org?
Sorry? Yeah, they can reach us at
What does the
ampartnership.org.
AM stand for in
Abstinence and Marriage.
Yeah, go ahead.
We are the Abstinence and Marriage
good.
Education
Okay.
Partnership. So ampartnership.org. Or if they want the online curriculum or if they want the online education component, that's at successsequence.com. So they can go either place for that information. So, yeah.
So for pregnancy clinic directors who currently do not have a thriving public school abstinent educational program, how would you encourage them to how would you encourage and promote them to consider and then maybe start something like this?
Okay, so first of all, we want to encourage the pregnancy center to be proactive, and many are. Many do want to go out into the community and provide services for their local schools, not only referral to the clinic, but teaching a clear absence until marriage message. The trick is it is it's very expensive and logistically challenging to hire speakers to go into schools. You have to hire people, and then you've got to schedule with it. It's fairly intensive. What we encourage pregnancy care centers to do is to transition from a presenter model to an equiper model. Okay. So rather than paying speakers to go into classrooms, we find it much more effective and efficient to work with the schools as an equipper rather than a presenter. So that is, instead of doing the presentations for the schools, it's helping the schools do the presentations themselves. Okay. So what we do is training seminars. So here, let me give you a picture of what that looks like. So Pregnancy Care Center would bring us in to do a training seminar for the educators in their community to teach the programs themselves. So the center becomes the hub that is equipping the schools, not the one that's doing all the presentations. Okay. Now, if a center currently has a presentation model, which is typical, my encouragement is to work on transitioning that toward an equipper model. If you have, let's say you have 3 presenters that are going into schools, that's great. If they've been doing it for any length of time, those schools are on board. And what they should say to those schools is, I know you guys love us having us come in, but we need to move on to other schools. So we're going to now roll it over to you so that you can do it for yourselves. And then those presenters can go open up doors in other schools. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So don't just keep going to, Johnson Middle School every year for the next 10 years. Go to Johnson Middle School for a year or 2 and then tell them, you like it? Great. Now teach it for yourself. Here's the material. Knock yourself out. Get trained and do it. We're going to go over here to Smith Middle School now. So that way you kind of keep moving, keep marching, keep reaching, because there's so many kids out there we've got to reach. Our motto is so many kids, so little time. And so if you really want to be effective, you got to keep moving. We've reached over 2 million kids by equipping others to do the work. And so that's the way that you do it. We want to move from addition to multiplication, from presenter to equipper.
Wow, that's so smart. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, that's really good. So as we wrap up this podcast, what are your final thoughts, or what would you like to share before we close things out?
Well, first of all, we have to stay absolutely dedicated and committed to the message of the mission. We can't moderate there has been far too much moderation of the message, accommodation of the message to culture. In other words, it is far too common to say, it's a little controversial to talk about marriage, so we won't actually use the word. What we'll say is, kids, you should wait until you're in a long-term mutual monogamous committed relationship. That's very common and hugely problematic, because marriage is a distinct institution. There is nothing like marriage. Marriage is not like a long-term committed relationship. It's a very different bird. And so we want to make sure that the message isn't wait until you're a long-term committed relationship. It's wait until you're married. We need to be clear about that. The problem with long-term committed relationship is it's wholly subjective. It's wholly subjective. If I'm talking to high school students and I say, listen, kids, it's best if you reserve all sexual activity until you're in a long-term committed relationship, what might they say? Yay! I have that. We've been going out for 3 months. I've never gone out with someone for more than 3 weeks. 3 months is because like high school years are like dog years, right? So
Yeah.
If a couple's been going out for a year, are you kidding me? I mean, we're getting married. This is for real. So if I'm telling kids, wait until you're in a long-term committed relationship, my abstinence program is actually green lighting sexual activity. Do you understand? And so this is why it's problematic to use subjective language. You've got to stay firm. It's not long-term committed relationship. It's marriage. Is there a ring on your finger? Okay. So one of the things that we say in the workbook is knowing what to do isn't as complicated and mysterious as the world makes it seem, with endless magazine articles on how to know when you're ready. The only question you need to ask is, am I married? Do I have a ring on my finger? If the answer is yes, green light. If the answer is no, no. So in other words, it's not fuzzy. It's clear. That's my message. Got to be clear. Wait. The message is reserve all sexual activity for the context of marriage. Now watch this. You don't have to do that. When I'm talking to kids, I will say, I'm not saying you have to do that. You do whatever you want. What you need to understand, however, what my job as an educator is to clearly communicate to you what is the safest, healthiest option available. It is to reserve all sexual activity for the context of marriage. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you what that is. The choice is yours.
That's really good. So one thing I've been doing in some of these podcast episodes recently is I try and give the listener a call to action of if you try this idea that we're presenting and you want to come and talk with, you, Scott, and myself and do a follow-up episode where we revisit how you've taken this, this idea or seed from this episode and you tried it in your community and you want to have some back and forth on how it went, or you want to wrestle with some of the struggles that showed up. I would just like to present this idea to those who are listening. If you want to, talk to Scott, maybe we'll get Pam Stencil on here and then myself, and we'll let the, the group support someone who's trying to bring this and onboard it into their area. And then we can wrestle with some of those ideas and struggles together. And if you're listening and you want to try it and you want to wrestle with a follow-up episode, reach out to me, Jacob@irapture.com, and I will be glad to help schedule that follow-up episode. And we can help, let others listen in as you're growing this idea in your own community. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. I love that idea. Love to mix it up. Love to that. And that's what we do. We equip, encourage, counsel, help people do it. We've done it. We've done it well. We've done it for years. And we exist to support and equip those who are doing it. And so we're in the field and equipping those who are in the field. Love that suggestion, and happy to do that.
Awesome, Scott. Well, this has been a really good conversation. Would you close out this podcast with a prayer with the expectation that those who are listening may join in?
Yeah, excellent. You want me to pray?
Yes.
Yeah, Father, thank you for this time to talk about these things. Our heart, our desire is that the truth would go forth across the land, that young people would learn the truth about you and the way that you have designed for them to live, and that they would choose to walk with you, that they would choose to live well, that they might know your blessing and that they might be a blessing. We commit this work to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Expose our prideful motives, throw them away, and clothe us with humility as you display. We all have sought a Savior in garbage heap. Lift us out from the wreckage, become our King. Born into this world like us, in humble human form, poured himself out as an offering. God became just like a lamb led to the slaughter. Expose our Lift us out from the wreckage, become our King. Born into this world like us, in humble human form, poured himself out as an offering. God became just like a lamb led to the slaughter. Expose our prideful motives, throw them away. Present us in your purity these twisted days. May we not seek false saviors in worthless things. Collapse our knees beneath us, you are our King. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. You're the King and source of true righteousness. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. You're the King and source of true righteousness. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. You're the King, source of true righteousness. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. You're the King and source of true righteousness.